Satyavan has died. We've read about Savitri's experience, her feeling at that time, and then how she put down the body and stood up and faced this spirit of death, god of death. And we read the description, what that being looked like. And now she hears his voice, a sad and formidable voice arose, which seemed the whole adverse worlds, as if it's the voice of everything that is hostile to truth, to happiness, to life, to existence. Unclasp, it cried, thy passionate influence, and relax, O slave of nature, changing tool of changeless law, who vainly writhed rebellion to my yoke. Thy elemental grasp, weep and forget, entomb thy passion in its living grave. Leave now the once loved spirit's abandoned robe, pass lonely back to thy vain life on earth. It ceased. She moved not, and it spoke again, lowering its mighty key to human chords. Yet a dread cry behind the uttered sounds, echoing all sadness and immortal scorn, moaned like a hunger of far wandering waves. Wilt thou forever keep thy passionate hold, thyself a creature doomed like him to pass, denying his soul death's calm and silent rest? Relax thy grasp. This body is earth's and thine. His spirit now belongs to a greater power. Woman, thy husband suffers. Savitri drew back her heart's force that clasped his body still, where from her lap renounced, on the smooth grass softly it lay, as often before in sleep, when from their couch she rose in the white dawn, called by her daily tasks. Now too, as if called, she rose and stood gathered in lonely strength, like one who drops his mantle for a race and waits the signal, motionlessly swift. She knew not to what course. Her spirit above, on the crypt summit of her secret form, like one left sentinel on a mountain crest, a fiery-footed splendor, puissant winged, watched, flaming silent, with her voiceless soul like a still sail upon a windless sea. White, passionless it rolled, an anchored might, waiting what far-ridged impulse should arise out of the eternal depths and cast its surge. Then Death, the king, leaned boundless down, as leans night over tired lands, when evening pales and fading gleams break down the horizon's walls, nor yet the dusk grows mystic with the moon. The dim and awful Godhead rose erect from his brief stooping to his touch on earth. And like a dream that wakes out of a dream, forsaking the poor mould of that dead clay, another luminous Satyavan arose, starting upright from the recumbent earth, as if someone over viewless borders stepped, emerging on the edge of unseen worlds. In the earth's day, the silent marvel stood between the mortal woman and the God. Such seemed he as if one departed came, wearing the light of a celestial shape, splendidly alien to the mortal air. You'll begin, Rosa.
Unclasped, it cried, passionate, influence elder love of nature, changing to of changeless law, who vainly writes rebellion to my yoke, thy elemental grasp, weep and forget.
Yes. So that voice of death is telling Savitri to let go her hold on Satyavan's spirit. Somehow she's keeping him still there, connected to the body. So he says, unclasp. Clasp is when we embrace somebody. He says, let go. Let go thy passionate influence. With all your passion and strength, you are holding on to him. And then he says, relax thy elemental grasp. She's holding on. We grasp something with our hand tightly. He's telling her to let go. And he says that she is a slave of nature. He calls her, oh, slave of nature. You are just a changing tool of changeless law. There is an eternal law. And you are a human being. Now you are a human being. Another time you may be something else. You're a mortal. So you are just being used by this power of changeless law. So don't try to escape from that law. Here there's a reference in the old tradition, this god of death. Yama, he's called as the god of death. But he's also known as Dharma. He's the god of law. He's the one who keeps everything in the universe in its place. So we will see that aspect of him. So he says there's a law. So you are just a changing thing. You're a slave of nature. So don't try to rebel. He says you are vainly writhed rebellion to my yoke. Rebellion is when we refuse, we struggle. And if we writhe, we move in an uneasy way trying to escape. But he says it is in vain. You will not be able to escape from my yoke. I have got hold of you now. You're joined to my law. So don't try to escape that. You let go your elemental grasp, and your role now is to weep and then forget. Yes, Mila? Writhes. This is from the word writhe. Writhing is what a snake does when it's injured. This. So here he's using this singular form. He addresses Savitri as thou. He says, thy passionate influence. When we use that second person singular, then the verb has a different ending. Writhest, it would be. But he's put a apostrophe there to show that E of writhest, the E has been left out. In this part of the poem, particularly in these two cantos of Book 9, we have many, many lines and passages from the very earliest version of Savitri. And we can notice that several features of the poetic style are different. In the later parts, later written parts of Savitri, Sri Aurobindo only very, very rarely he carries over, he stops, puts a full stop in the middle of a line, and then he carries over to the next line. But in that earlier style, he was doing it more often. So here we can see an example of that. In the top line, the speech starts in the middle of the line. And in the second line, he speaks about, O slave of nature. It carries over to the next line. Usually in the main part of the poem, we won't find that happening, or only very rarely. And he uses this verb here at the end of the second line. He says, relax. And then it's 3 more lines before he tells us her what she has to relax. Relax thy elemental grasp.
Shraddhavan, I have one question. Why that we are all slaves of the nature?
We are all slaves of nature. All we mortal beings are slaves of nature. It's only in our inner being. So he is addressing her as a mortal being, just as a human woman.
But just a question.
And that is something that happens when a loved one dies. It very often happens that with our human emotions we cling on. And really we should try not to do that. Savitri has her reasons. She's not going to let Satyavan be taken away by death. But the person then, the soul, may suffer if it's being held on to by many people, weeping and crying and holding on with their feelings when it needs to go further. So that's what he says at the end, no? Thy husband suffers. And when he says that, then she lets go immediately. Sarojini, you'll read the next 3 lines.
Internal mouth thy passion in its living grave. Live now the unloved spirits upon dead road. Pass lonely back to the vain life on earth.
So he says, entomb thy passion. Put it into yourself. No, don't project it. Don't hold on to Satyavan. Your body is like a living grave now. The grave where we bury a body. Entomb something in a grave. A grave is a tomb. All your strong feelings now, you have to let them go. You have to let go. He says, now leave, let it go. This body, the abandoned robe of the once loved spirit. Satyavan is the once loved spirit. His body is just a robe which he has let go of. It has fallen off. So death says to her, let that go now. And you return alone, lonely, go back to your life on earth. And he's always telling that our life on earth is something useless and illusory, the vain life on earth. You are still alive. You can go back to that vain life. You have to leave him. A tomb is a grave. If you entomb something, you put it into a grave. It's a verb. The noun of tomb is given this prefix of the idea of putting something into a grave or a tomb.
It ceased, she moved not, and it spoke again, lowering its mighty key to human chords. Yet a dread cry behind the uttered sounds, echoing all sadness and immortal scorn, moaned like a hunger of far wandering waves.
Yes. So the voice ceased, it stopped. And Savitri does not move. And so the voice spoke again. And before it had been a tremendous unearthly sound. But now it's as if he tones down his voice to earthly sounds. No? Lowering its mighty key. It's like in music. We can change the key of the musical instrument. Instead of it being very loud and high, he's toning it down. To human chords, like the vocal cords that we have here in our throat that allow the voice to come out. And yet, behind that sound which comes out, which sounds more like a human voice, Sri Aurobindo says that Savitri can hear a kind of echo or an undertone or overtone, a dread cry, a terrible sound behind the sounds that are coming out. And that cry is like an echo of all the sadness in the universe, and also at the same time immortal scorn. Scorn is when you really despise somebody or something. So that God of death, he has no respect at all. He mocks the sufferings and the sadness of human beings, and that sound is in his voice. So that cry which is behind what he says, Sri Aurobindo says, it sounds like a sea, like a hunger of far wandering waves, as if we hear the sound of a stormy ocean in the distance, and it's as if that ocean wants to drown everything, to swallow everything up. That's the sound that she hears. And then come the words, Bhavana.
Wilt thou forever keep thy passionate hold, thyself a creature doomed like him to part, denying his soul death's calm and silent rest? Relax thy grasp. This body is earth's and thine. His spirit now belongs to your greater power. Woman, thy husband suffers.
Yes. So here we have this second person singular, wilt thou. In our ordinary speech, it would be will you. And here this will means, do you want? Do you want to hold on forever in this way, in this passionate way? Are you going to keep holding on like that? You, thyself, you yourself are a creature who is doomed to pass, doomed to die, just like him. You can't hold on to him forever. And as long as you are holding on to him, you are preventing him from experiencing the calm, the peace, and silent rest of death. Denying to his soul death's calm and silent rest. And again he says, relax thy grasp, let go. This body of Satyavan, belongs to the earth and to you. You can do what you like with it. But his spirit now belongs to a greater power. And then he tells her, your husband is suffering. And then she lets go. Shamala, would you read?
Yes. Savitri drew back her heart's force that clasped his body still, where from her lap renounced on the smooth grass. Softly it lay, as often before in sleep, when from their couch she rose in the white dawn, called by her daily tasks. Now too, as if called, she rose and stood, gathered in lonely strength, like one who drops his mantle for a race and waves the signal, motionlessly still.
So she drew back, she withdraws that passionate hold of her heart's force that was still holding on to Satyavan's body. She lets it go. She had been holding on with her heart's force, even though the body itself was lying on the grass. She had laid it, when death came, she had been holding Satyavan on her lap, and then she had let the body, she laid it gently on the grass. So it's renounced, it's let go from her lap. I have my book on my lap. So there it's lying softly on the soft grass, and it's as if he was asleep. And often in the morning, she would leave him sleeping like that while she had to get up to do her early morning tasks. So in the same way, now she lets go. When from their couch, their bed where they slept, she would get up in the white light of dawn because she had all her daily work to do, her work of broom and jar and well, all that kind of household tasks. So now too, it's as if somebody has called her. In the early mornings it was as if her tasks, her duties called her. Now it's as if somebody calls her, and she stands up and stood erect, gathered in lonely strength. We read before, no, the great are strongest when they stand alone. And he says that she's like somebody who has to take part in a race. And the signal has been given that now the race will start, but not yet the go signal. No? So the outer covering has dropped off. She's ready to run her race, waiting for the signal. So all that energy, swiftness of the runner who must run his race, it's gathered there, motionlessly swift. She's not moving at all, but all that swiftness is held there, ready to move.
The mantle is the one that lights.
Yes, you have a mantle on a light, but it's another word for a coat or a cloak, an outer covering. When you're going to run a race, you have just your very minimum clothing, no? But while you're waiting, you don't want to get your muscles cold, so you have a mantle, a covering. Is it Ganga Lakshmi's turn?
She knew not to what course his spirit to go on the great summit of a sacred fall, like one left sentinel on the mountain crest. The fiery footed splendor is wind, watched them in silence, with a voiceless soul, like a still sign open to windless
Like a still sail
sail.
upon a windless sea. Sail. So she does. She's like a runner, but she doesn't yet know where she has to run. She knew not to what course. Where will she have to go next? Above her, her spirit is watching. on the crypt summit of her secret form. That means not her earthly body, but her subtle body. The summit is the top of the mountain. The crypt is usually down in the basement. It's below. But perhaps here it's like secret, something that is hidden, something that's cryptic, is mysterious and difficult to understand. So her spirit, she feels her spirit above her on this hidden secret summit of her secret form. And that her spirit is like somebody who's on guard, a sentinel, a guard who is watching. And it's like a great angel. It has fiery wings and, powerful wings and fiery feet, flaming feet. And the sentinel, her spirit itself, is flaming, but it's silent. And within her, her voiceless soul, her soul is also silent, is like a sail, the sail of a little boat on a vast sea. And there's no wind in that sea. The sail is not moving. It's completely still. And the next lines continue that image of the little boat on the sea. Uday.
Great passionless dread and anchored mind, waiting what for rage impulse should arise out of the internal death and pass its sorrow.
So we talk about a ship riding at anchor when it is not moving. Of course, normally when we want to, when we're not using the boat, we tie it up in a harbor. But if you can't do that, if there's no harbor, you may have to cast your anchor so that the boat will remain more or less in the same place, unprotected by the land. So here's the image of a wide sea and a little white sailing boat, white sailed boat. It's anchored, it's fixed firmly, it's not drifting, it's not lost. It's white, passionless, peaceful, an anchored might, strength, firmly fixed. This is her soul, waiting. It's waiting, it's expecting that there will be a big wave coming. What far-ridged impulse should arise, like a tsunami coming, a great wave coming. And she knows that surge is going to come, rising up out of the eternal depths of this sea where her soul is riding. And that wave will show the way to go. A surge, it's a big wave carrying, that will carry her where she has to go. She's waiting very, very quietly and calmly, the spirit on watch, the soul quiet, pure, waiting. What will come next? Varadarajan.
And that they can leave boundless down, as gleams night over tired lands, when fleeting fade and fading gleams break down the horizon's walls, nor yet the dusk grows misty with the moon.
So he images death as a great king. In Huta's paintings, he wears a crown. He leans down, bends down, but he's boundless, he's vast. No? So Aurobindo says that when he bends down, it's like night bending down over the earth at evening time. No? And if it's been a hot day, the lands are tired. We are happy when that cooling night comes. No? When evening pales, it becomes, all the colors die away, it becomes paler and paler. And there may be some faint gleams of sunlight, but that's fading away on the horizon. So we can't anymore see that line, that wall of the horizon. There's night above and night below. And he says it's like before the moon rises. Nor yet the dusk, the dark twilight grows mystic, mysterious. There's something very beautiful when the moon comes, no? But it hasn't come yet. So only darkness as night leans down. That's the image he gives of this bending down of death. Joel.
The dim and awful Godhead rose erect, from his grief stooping to his touch on earth, and like a dream that wakes out of a dream, forsaking the poor mold of that dead clay, another luminous Shraddhavan arose.
So the god leans down, and then he stands up again, rose erect, this dim and awful Godhead. From his brief stooping, when we bend down, we stoop. It's just for a moment. He just touches the earth. And when he stands up again, then out of that body, out of that dead clay of Satyavan's body, which is just like a mold, an empty shape, another luminous Satyavan arose. It's Satyavan, but he's full of light. Aurobindo says this appearance of the luminous Satyavan, it's like a dream that wakes out of a dream. The appearance is like a dream, but it's also as if he is waking up from this dream of being mortal, of being human. Very evocative, suggestive lines. He, starting upright, it's as if suddenly this luminous Satyavan arose from the recumbent earth lying down. And it's not only that earth is recumbent, but that earth of his poor dead body is also recumbent, lying down. And it's as if someone has stepped across some borderline that we can't see. And he's come out, he's emerged on the edge of unseen worlds, uninvisible worlds.
What is means recumbent?
Sorry, recumbent, it means prone, lying flat, lying down. Praveen, you would read?
In the earth's day, silent marvel stood between the mortal woman and the god. Such seemed he, as if one departed came, rearing the light of his celestial shape, splendidly alien to mortal air.
So this luminous Satyavan is visible in the earth's air, in the physical air. And this silent, marvelous, luminous Satyavan is standing there between Savitri, the mortal woman, and the gods. And he seems like a ghost. He seems as if somebody who has left this world comes back wearing the light of a heavenly shape. And that heavenly shape and the light, that heavenly light, is alien, strange. It doesn't belong to our mortal air. But it's splendid, it's glorious. So even in the daylight of earth, it's the middle of the day, it's noonday. That light can be seen shining. Andras.
The mind sought things long loved and fell back forward. From unfamiliar hues, beheld yet longed, by the sweet, radiant form unsatisfied. Incredulous of its too bright hints of heaven. Too strange the brilliant phantasm to life's clasp. Desiring the warm creations of the earth, reared in the ardor of material suns, the senses says in vain a glorious shape. Only the spirit knew the spirit still, and the heart divined the old loved heart, though changed.
Yes. So Savitri is seeing that form, that luminous Satyavan. But the mind is looking for all the familiarity of her loving husband, these things long loved. But it's foiled, it's baffled, it doesn't find them because he's shining. He's got a different color, unfamiliar hues. She sees him, the mind sees him, and yet it's still unsatisfied. It's longing, it's unsatisfied by that sweet, radiant form. And the mind doesn't believe, it can't believe in these two bright hints of heaven. And it is strange, this brilliant phantasm. Phantasm is like a ghost, a phantom. This shining form is too strange. The life in her cannot clasp it and get hold of it. The life what is longing for the warm creations of the earth, the physical body, the earthly body, which has been brought up in the ardor, the brilliance, the warmth of material suns. That's what life looks for. So the senses of the mind, they are aware of that glorious shade, shadow, ghost, phantasm. They can't grasp it. Only the spirit knew the spirit still. Savitri's inner spirit recognizes Satyavan, feels his familiarity. She knows that the spirit feels satisfied. And the heart, her heart, still can feel his heart, his old, loved heart. Even though the appearance is changed, she can communicate. She feels his heart there. Sergei.
Between two realms he stood, not wavering, but fixed in quite strong extents, like one who sightless listens for a comment.
So now he describes Satyavan standing, this luminous shade of Satyavan. Savitri was like somebody about to start a race, ready to run, no, the signal. But he's also waiting for a signal. He's standing between two realms, the earthly realm and the other world. He's standing firmly. He's not wavering which way to go. He's just waiting, fixed in quiet, strong expectancy. He, like Savitri, he feels that a signal will come when you expect something. Aurobindo says, like one who sightless, a blind person or a person who's in such darkness that they can't see, is listening for a command which will tell which way to go. Shipra, you'll read?
So were they immobile on that earthly field? Flowers not of earth, though one in human clay. On either side of one, two spirits strove, silence battling with silence, vast with vast.
So it's such a powerful picture. Nobody moves. No? They were immobile. And they're still on the earthly field. They're still on the material plane. No? But these powers don't belong to the earth. None of them do. The god doesn't. Satyavan's soul doesn't. Savitri doesn't. Even though she's still wearing earthly clay. She's wearing a human form, human clay. And Satyavan's in the middle. He's one in the middle. On either side, these two spirits are striving, battling, Savitri and the god. No? Silence, battled with silence, vast with vast. It's as if she is just as vast as he is. Mila.
But now the impulse of the path was felt, moving from the silence that supports the stars to touch the confines of the visible world. Luminous he moved away. Behind him Death went slowly with his noiseless tread, as seen in dream bird fields a shadowy herdsman's glance behind some wanderer from his voiceless herds. As Savitri moved behind eternal death, her mortal face was equal with the gods.
Yes. So it is Satyavan who moves. He feels the impulse of the path. There must be some kind of gravity or push of the path that he has to follow. That path which is moving from the silence with a capital S, that silence which is supporting the whole universe with its stars. That comes to touch the confines, the limits of the visible world. There's a path. So Satyavan moves away, luminous, and death follows him, behind him, death. And Aurobindo says, death is like a shepherd. He moves with his noiseless tread. It says all happening as if in a dream. His seen in dream-built fields, a shadowy herdsman glides. A shepherd, who's also a shadow, is moving silently, slowly, behind some wanderer from his voiceless herds. He has his cows or his sheep, but we can't hear them either. These are the souls, and one of them has wandered. So now the shepherd or the herdsman has to get that one animal moving in the right direction. It's like that, and he does it by moving behind him. He guides from behind. So Satyavan moves, death moves, and behind Savitri moved behind eternal death. She follows him. And her mortal pace was equaled with the gods. She can keep up with him. She's still in her body, but she can keep up with the god. Parry, you'll read the last 3 lines, please.
Nor does she travel in her lover's steps, planting her human feet where his had trod, into the perilous silence beyond.
So this is the picture. Satyavan, there, Savitri following. She also doesn't say anything. She's silent. She's putting her feet where Satyavan's have. She's following him. No? She's planting her human feet where his had trod and following him into those perilous silences beyond, full of danger. Shall we read these 2 pages from the top of page 575?
Unclasp, it cried, thy passionate influence, and relax, O slave of nature, changing tool of changeless law, who vainly writhest rebellion to my yoke. Thy elemental grasp, weep and forget, entomb thy passion in its living grave. Leave now the once loved spirit's abandoned robe. Pass lonely back to thy vain life on earth. It ceased. She moved not, and it spoke again, lowering its mighty key to human chords. Yet a dread cry behind the uttered sounds, echoing all sadness and immortal scorn, moaned like a hunger of far-wandering waves. Wilt thou forever keep thy passionate hold, thyself a creature doomed like him to pass, denying his soul death's calm and silent rest? Relax thy grasp. This body is earth's and thine. His spirit now belongs to a greater power. Woman, thy husband suffers. Savitri drew back her heart's force that clasped his body still, where from her lap renounced on the smooth grass softly it lay, as often before in sleep, when from their couch she rose in the white dawn, called by her daily tasks. Now too, as if called, she rose, and stood gathered in lonely strength, like one who drops his mantle for a race and waits the signal, motionlessly swift. She knew not to what course. Her spirit above, on the crypt summit of her secret form, like one left sentinel on a mountain crest, a fiery-footed splendour, puissant winged, watched, flaming silent, with her voiceless soul like a still sail upon a windless sea. White, passionless, it rode, an anchored might, waiting what far-ridged impulse should arise out of the eternal depths and cast its surge. Then Death the King leaned boundless down, as leans night over tired lands, when evening pales and fading gleams break down the horizon's walls, nor yet the dusk grows mystic with the moon. The dim and awful Godhead rose erect from his brief stooping to his touch on earth, and like a dream that wakes out of a dream, forsaking the poor mould of that dead clay, another luminous Shraddhavan arose, starting upright from the recumbent earth, as if someone over viewless borders stepped, emerging on the edge of unseen worlds. In the earth's day, the silent marvel stood between the mortal woman and the God. Such seemed he, as if one departed came, wearing the light of a celestial shape, splendidly alien to the mortal air. The mind sought things long loved, and fell back foiled from unfamiliar hues, beheld, yet longed, by the sweet radiant form unsatisfied, incredulous of its too bright hints of heaven. Too strange the brilliant phantasm to life's clasp, desiring the warm creations of the earth, reared in the ardour of material suns, the senses seized in vain a glorious shade. Only the spirit knew the spirit still, and the heart divined the old loved heart, though changed. Between two realms he stood, not wavering, but fixed in quiet, strong expectancy, like one who, sightless, listens for a command. So were they immobile on that earthly field, powers not of earth, though one in human clay. On either side of one, two spirits strove. Silence battled with silence, vast with vast. But now the impulse of the path was felt, moving from the silence that supports the stars to touch the confines of the visible world. Luminous he moved away. Behind him death went slowly with his noiseless tread, as seen in dream-built fields a shadowy herdsman glides behind some wanderer from his voiceless herds. And Savitri moved behind eternal death. Her mortal pace was equalled with the gods. Wordless she travelled in her lover's steps, planting her human feet where his had trod, into the perilous silences beyond.